Welcome to Let's Eat. I'm your host, Emily, holistic health coach and self-proclaimed wellness enthusiast, here to meet you at the intersection of physical and mental health, the exact location where optimal wellness lies. This podcast is meant to explore all areas of mind and body wellness, designed to offer you the integrative knowledge, behavioral strategies, and mindset shifts necessary to uplevel your health and feel better today. We'll explore nutrition, sleep, movement, self-care and stress management, habits and routines, gut health, mental health, and more. I am so happy that you're here. Welcome to the table. Let's eat. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Let's Eat. Today's episode, I'm going to do a little bit of a life update first and foremost. I'd love to get more into this type of structure because I think it allows me to kind of just share what's going on and what's been happening and keeps you updated. And I feel like it allows you to kind of see a little bit further into my life, what's going on, what's the latest, what's happening, more than maybe what I share on social media and so forth. So I guess to give you an update on my health, I'll start there. I've been working with Kale Diagnostics for a couple months now on holistically and naturally dissolving 2 gallstones that I have in my gallbladder. One of them was identified back in 2022 when I had a ovarian cyst rupture, and they did an ultrasound and saw that I had a gallstone there, and they said, don't worry about it. You'll just have to have your gallbladder removed down the road. And that was simply not going to be the case for me. I just don't believe that we need to have a whole organ system removed from our bodies. So I decided to take an alternate route. Now, I probably could have been a little more proactive about this. I waited a little while, and now there seems to be 2 after getting a ultrasound more recently that confirmed that there are in fact 2. So I've been working with Kale Diagnostics for a couple months, and I have a follow-up ultrasound to be scheduled probably next month just to see if any progress has been made. I am on a serious protocol right now, a serious supplement protocol. Dietary changes were suggested, but based on how I normally eat, my practitioner wasn't too concerned about me making changes or drastic changes, just because I am essentially doing what I should be doing for this process, but the supplements are just kind of that additional support that I didn't want to have to do on my own. I wanted to work with someone who was qualified to guide me because there's just so many supplements. So I will be honest and say it's been kind of hard to stick with the supplements. I've moved a lot of my personal supplements over to liposomal forms. So if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I take magnesium in the liposomal form. I take D3. No, I don't. What am I saying? I don't take D3 in liposomal. I take D3 in my capsule, but I take my omega-3s now in liposomal form. I take glutathione. So this is just, number one, more bioavailable within the body. I really love this technology of being able to take supplements in this way because it just makes it much easier. But also it's just one less capsule to take, because when you're taking so many capsules, it's simply just, it's almost nauseating. Like, it's hard to take them all. Like, you really have to hype yourself up for it. And so it's hard now taking the supplements that I would normally take and then taking also the supplements that I'm taking with this protocol. So I will say my symptoms have been nearly non-existent. So I'm really grateful for that because I think something's working. Now, the ultrasound will obviously confirm that, whether or not, I've progressed in any way. And I also had a GI map done, which, for those of you who aren't familiar, a GI map is essentially a comprehensive analysis of your stool to see what's going on in your gut, which I've never done before. So I was really, really excited about it, and everything came back pretty okay. There were a few areas, for example, the one area I think said that I had too much of the one bacteria, and that's just because I have so much fiber in my diet, which is not a bad thing. But the dietitian basically suggested that I, be more aware of eating, I forget if she said certain types of fibers instead, or I should be focusing more on protein. I forget what she said, but basically a suggestion there. And then there was another one that I need to focus on certain color of produce. This is all kind of coming back to me, because it was probably a couple weeks ago that I met with my practitioner and got the results and discussed it with her. I also did a HTMA analysis, or hair tissue mineral analysis, whatever the acronym stands for. And I got that back and my zinc was low. So I started supplementing with zinc, but everything else looked good. And other than that, I am waiting on a Dutch test, which will test my hormones. And, I did this for the sake of my gallbladder, but I really also did it for the sake of just general health, because these are tests that I just couldn't get from my doctor. So for someone who is so invested in health, just like I did genetic testing last summer, these are just, resources and tools that I can use to better understand my body and what's going on. And then subsequently, obviously, do something about any kind of issues or imbalances or whatever the case is in order to become my healthiest self. And eventually, I'd love to be able to administer testing like this. It's just not in my realm of work right now. But down the road, that is something I definitely want to do because of how valuable it can be. So we'll report back I'm recording this a couple weeks earlier than its release date. So I am probably heading to an ultrasound in the coming weeks, because I'm at that 3-month mark, but we'll report back on that and let you know. And then also, based on the results of the testing I've done, I've just kind of been making adjustments there. And we'll see. I'm planning on following up with the practitioner a few weeks following the ultrasound, just to kind of discuss it with her and, then go from there, right? I guess the results from the ultrasound will really have to indicate what next steps are. But it's been really fun to kind of take care of myself and my health on this maybe more advanced level in comparison to what I already do. And, I think it goes to show there's room for growth for everyone. You can be eating the most healthful diet and doing all the right things, but sometimes you do need a little extra support, and I can still learn so much, and you're never actually done on a wellness journey. I think there's always room to grow, always things that you can do differently or improve. And so, it's kind of exciting that I get this opportunity to invest in myself in this way. In other news, this is the first time I'm openly sharing on this, but I'm in the process of becoming a Pilates instructor. I have been attending Pilates at this studio for, I guess, like 4 months now, 5 months now. And I had plans to collaborate with the studio owner to host a workshop of some kind over the summer as like a wellness workshop. I really would love to get more into the community and doing events like this, where maybe I do a small workshop or a small talk, and then she leads a class all about wellness, movement, all that good stuff. And so we were in the midst of planning it, and then essentially when it came to the event itself, we decided to forego it for the time being, just because she was saying there's so much going on and it just didn't really make sense. And because it was our first time doing it, she wanted to be sure that she could put the energy into it. And at this point in time, that was just not the case. So I was a little bummed out about it, but she did end up asking me if I'd have any interest in becoming an instructor and working at the studio. And initially, I was kind of caught off guard just because I really wasn't expecting this. But at the same time, I have been in the process of trying to figure out what's next in my professional career as my business continues to evolve. And I mean that in the sense of, what am I doing and what do I maybe need to decide is no longer relevant to my journey. And that would include, starting to look at other avenues to either enrich what I'm doing in my business or just identify other streams of income. And so this kind of landed in my lap. And I can't say that I never thought about doing something like this. I actually did several years ago look into becoming a Pilates instructor, which is actually really funny. And it ended up not obviously happening. But this just seemed like a good idea, right? Like, I'm going to the classes anyways. I like them. It's close to where I live. And while I don't really know a whole lot about anatomy and Pilates, I can learn and I will learn and I'm good at learning. So, thought about it, kind of threw the idea around a little bit, met with the owner again and decided, all right, this is happening. So, I'm in the process of training. The training is rather informal. In the state of New Jersey, I don't need to be certified in order to teach Pilates. So, I can simply be trained by this individual and start teaching group fitness once I, am ready to go. So, I am learning more about the anatomy, working on that, practicing and fine-tuning my form because that's huge. I learned quickly that I've been doing a plank wrong my entire life. So these are things that obviously I need to know and want to know and want to be sure I address. And I'm on my way. So I'm really, really, really excited. I think this is going to be such a cool opportunity. Another step into the wellness space, another step into a direction that's more in alignment with what I ultimately want to be doing, which is my business full time. And I hope that if you're local, you'll come take one of my classes, which so excited to be able to share that with you all and see where this goes. So that is my biggest update. It is now into July, so that means I have officially re-signed my lease and I'm staying in the location that I moved into last July. I love where I live. Lou loves where she lives, she told me. I could not think of a better spot for me than where I am. I feel comfortable, I feel safe, it's quiet, I'm accessible to every store that I could possibly need. It quite literally is exactly what I was hoping for. And I'm really big into manifestation and law of attraction and all that. And I'm not going to say too much about that because that's not what this is about. But I firmly believe that this location, this home came into my life at the proper time, at the right time. But I also believe that I've spent a lot of time visualizing it and, kind of attracting it to me in some way or another. And I'm so grateful. I'm so, so, so grateful. And I'm so happy here and I'm excited for another year. But with that said, okay, when I first moved in, I went hard on furniture and I almost just said decorating. I really did not do anything for decorating because I was not born with an interior design gene. I do not have that skill. And so I kind of kept putting it off because I was like, well, I don't want to buy something if I'm not in love with it. If I'm not like, yes, this is perfect. I envision this. I can see this in my space. So this is going to be a whole nother adventure that I am going to, head onto or head into because I have not done any decorating. There's still a lot of dead spots in my house and I want to be able to give like a formal tour of my beautiful space and how much I love it, but I really don't have much going on. And, a lot of people say, don't even worry about it. Just make it livable because eventually you're going to move out, you're going to have all this stuff and you're going to want to get rid of it and you're going to want to get all new stuff. So it doesn't even matter. So like I am functioning. Obviously I've been here for a year now. I'm functioning, but I would love to kind of flush it out with a little bit more, make it more homey, make it more cozy. So that's on my agenda for the next maybe couple months is to be a little bit more strategic and creative and, start to deck it out a little bit more outside of what I have. I mean, like I said, I'm functioning, it's livable, it's fine. It's just now it's really my home. So I really want to, do a little bit more with it. Something else that has been on my mind is I'm in the last 6 months of this decade of my life. I turned 30 in December. And I'm just really thinking, I'm getting like goosebumps. Sorry about this. I'm just like giving more thought to like life and what it is I want and I don't know, the past decade and what my life has looked like. And I think about who I was coming into my 20s and who I am now as a result of my 20s and what I've learned and It's just wild. Life is so wild. I don't know. I just, there's just a lot on my mind around it. And I really want to spend the last 6 months of my 20s stepping into that kind of next version, I guess, or next phase or person that I'm not to say I'm going to be a different person, right? But I think I just have a lot on my mind around what I don't want to bring with me and the work that I want to put into my business, my finances, personally, in order for my 30s to maybe look differently or to be better or just, to become a better version of myself. I think that's probably the best way of putting it. And I'm really looking forward to that. I think, nothing about really 30 scares me per se. I mean, maybe to some extent it does, but I'm grateful for where I am. I know I'm where I'm meant to be. And so that's really kind of been on my mind for, now moving into the summer and, as we head towards the fall and the last part of this year, really kind of giving myself some space to reflect, to, you know, envision what's next. Um, yeah, that's been a big one. And then other than that, I'm really just focusing on my vision and my goals. For those of you who don't know, I'm a very goal oriented person to a fault, I would say. And I just have a lot I want to do. And it's actually funny, I have a vision board that I made for this year, and I've already seen a couple of these things come true. Some of the other things are a little bit of a reach, but I'm still leaning into this vision board because it really does exemplify all the goals that I have for myself. And even if they're maybe 5-year goals or 10-year goals or whatever the case is, still goals, still important to me, and I can still make progress towards those larger goals. And I've already, like I said, seen it. And it's actually really fascinating because I'll share with you on my vision board, I have a picture of somebody doing a yoga pose. It's like a yoga Pilates pose, but I put it on there with the intention of encouraging me and focusing on creating a yoga practice because I know how important it is for my body to practice yoga, to be more intentional with my recovery and my joints and my muscles and so forth. And that's something that I've always struggled with, is giving my body that type of rest. Like, I can not work out for one day and be fine, but it's actually about that restorative work, that mobility that's important. And what I'm learning is that vision board image is actually my decision to start Pilates as an instructor. And like, that's what's coming, that's what's manifesting. And it's just, I don't know, just interesting because it's not really what I intended, but it's coming to life in a way that is still relevant because I'm still doing a lot of restorative work in Pilates and there's a lot of stretching involved and whatnot. So it's just kind of showing up in a way that maybe I didn't expect and I didn't foresee happening. That's really cool. Something else that I've been kind of trying to get into more is more content creation, more brand collaboration, things of that capacity. So I've been working on that kind of on the side and kind of like a more discreet way, not something I really openly talk about, but there are still a lot of brands that I work with that I promote and that I love, and it's been really cool to develop that because I think about when I first started my Instagram back in 2018. This was like a dream. Like, I would follow these girls. I remember like the girls that I started following, they were like the first people that I followed in the health and wellness space or the foodie space, and the collaborations and the PR that they would get. Now, I mean, it has blown up. It's kind of wild to see how things have changed in, the past 5 years, 6 years. It's wild. But, I used to dream of being one of those people that would get PR or that would be able to collaborate. And don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of brands that I have on my, my vision board type of deal. Like, I have a 29 goals for 29 list on my computer, and there are brands on there that I would love to work with, and those are still part of my kind of my long-term goals. But still, just being able to do what I do and share the brands that I do share and the partnerships that I do have, I think I'm, super, super lucky for that, and I'm grateful, and I would love to see this continue to expand. So I'm putting that out in the universe because your girl loves to manifest. So putting that out, and we'll see what happens. I just think too, I'm ready to just be fully in with my business. Now, that's not to say that that's not something that I've already done, but this past year, or I guess these past 6 months and being in 2024, I've really just said yes to a lot of things. I put myself out there. The amount of emails that I've sent for networking or collaborations or whatever the case is, right? Like I'm really just putting forth so much energy into it because of how strongly I feel about it. And I hope that by listening to this podcast and following me in whatever capacity that you do, or if you know me personally or whatever the case is, like I hope that that comes through in everything that I share and all that I do and just how I go about, emphasizing how important it is for us to be investing in this area of our lives, because what are our lives without health? What is life without feeling good? What is life without taking care of our mental and our physical health? That's all we have. Our bodies and our minds are all we really have at the end of the day. And so what's more important than that? And so I really, really try to put that on the forefront of everything that I share and be sure that that message is heard. And I exemplify that in ways and give guidance and support to those who need it, or suggestions and strategies to those who are looking for them. That's really, really important to me, and I'm going to continue to do that. And, I'm excited. And I shared before, I really want to get more into the community and do more speaking and collaborate and network more. So I'm really looking into those types of opportunities where I can put myself out there in that capacity and, do more outreach and one-on-one, face-to-face type of work. And I don't know, there's so much out there. The sky's the limit. I'm just ready to kind of go full throttle and go full force into what makes my soul, burst into a million pieces and sets my soul on fire and all that good stuff. And I'm excited to take you along with me. So now that I've gotten my life updates out there, I thought I would share some health and wellness favorites, some health and wellness products, supplements, trends, habits, and so forth that I'm loving lately. And I think this is my most exciting part of this episode, at least for me, because I love when I am listening to the podcast that I listen to and the hosts share things that they're loving lately. And I would love to be able to do this every month and share, what it is I'm doing, what I'm trying, maybe what I'm not loving, or what I thought I might love and then I didn't, right? And really give you kind of that firsthand seat of, yeah, this is working for me and I love it, versus, yeah, maybe not so much. But it's going to be different every month. And I think this is just the nature of wellness, is we find things that work for us and then we find things that don't work for us. And that's where that individuality and that, specificity comes in order for it to be sustainable. I think that is so important when it comes to cultivating any kind of wellness practice, is that you are honoring what works for you and then you're also honoring what doesn't. And that can be relevant to your circumstances, that can be relevant to your schedule, that can be relevant to your body. Okay? There's a number of influences that impact this, so you have to be willing to be fluid and flexible. Just because the person that you're following is doing a cold plunge and a sauna and a 30-minute meditation and taking all these supplements every day doesn't mean that you have to do that. Does not mean you have to do that. Yes, you're more than welcome to try. You're more than welcome to see if it works for you and your lifestyle and your body and so forth. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't seamlessly fit, if it's causing you stress, if it is costing you so much money, I would argue it's not right for you right now. You obviously can feel differently. You're not trying to tell you how to feel, but that's my interpretation of it. Okay, so products that I'm loving, things I'm loving right now, let's get into it. I'm probably going to do about 3 or 4 a month, but I'm really excited for this. So first thing I'm loving, Symbiotica's Omega-3 supplement. Now, I will put this out there and say that omega-3s are among my favorite number one topics of conversation, but also nutrients to integrate into one's life, whether that be through food, which is preferred, or supplementally. This is up there with magnesium, with glutathione. Okay, I have some top favorite nutrients. We need a well-balanced array of nutrients, don't get me wrong, but I can't help but play favorites here. Omega-3s are one of them. And I look at it more through the lens of mental health because of my experience with mental health, but physically speaking, profound benefits. Mental health wise, so important. Deficiencies, widespread. I gotta cut myself off because I could spend this whole episode just talking about omega-3s. So I've been taking it lately in a liposomal form. Now, before this, I was taking a fish oil supplement, or I guess it was omega-3 is EPA and DHA omega-3 supplement by Nordic Naturals. It was derived from fish. I really like Nordic Naturals as a brand. And I was taking that, regularly in a capsule, a gel capsule. Now, I mentioned that when I started my gallbladder protocol, I started to incorporate like 3 times as many capsules into my day than what I was taking just generally for general health. And it just became a lot. I was talking to a client about this the other day where, it's just a lot to have to take capsules and as many capsules as I was taking, which I know they are all for a purpose and they're all serving me in some way, but it became daunting and it became unappetizing for me, right? Like I just wouldn't want to take any because it felt like so much. So I started to transition a couple of my supplements to doing ones that are in liposomal form, which makes them liquid and more bioavailable in the body. So truthfully, I would prefer most of my supplements be in this form for the sake of absorption. So in this case, I went with the omega-3 supplement by Symbiotica. It also contains astaxanthin, which is part of the group of chemicals or antioxidants of the carotenoid family. And so what I love about Symbiotica is they formulate their products rarely in isolation. They're always combining the primary supplement or the primary nutrient, which in this case is DHA and EPA, with other ingredients that either help with the absorption of the whole, group of nutrients or benefits the body in some way when paired with it and so forth. So I really appreciate that because of the way that the products are formulated with that in mind so that your body is able to make use of it better. But I started taking this probably about a month ago, I would say maybe a month and a half ago. I'm waiting on another shipment of it because I ran out. But my skin and my nails and my hair have noticed a big shift. And this is just one of those general supplements that I like to take, and I've just been loving it. It's so easy to take. It's so much more convenient than having to remember to take a capsule. I just squirt the supplement into my mouth, call it a day, and it's an enjoyable experience. And I think that is ultimately, 10 times more incentivizing when it's enjoyable versus having to take a lot of capsules. So that is the supplement that I have been loving lately and will continue to take in this form for the foreseeable future, just because it's easy. I'm enjoying it. I want to take this consistently and my body is happy with it. So speaking of Symbiotica, this is not a Symbiotica ad by any means, but something else I have been loving and I've shared a little bit about on my stories on Instagram is putting their magnesium L-threonate supplement into my coffee in the morning. So I don't really know what happened here, but I kind of took a break from matcha. I think it was because I transitioned from hot matcha to cold iced matcha because the weather has shifted, and the coconut milk that I have been obsessed with, if you follow me on Instagram, I've talked about this coconut milk. It's my native forest. I love it. It comes in a can. I was buying ShopRite Supply out like every single week. I was using it all the time. Ingredients were coconut and water, filtered water, most importantly. And I'm obsessed with it. It was so good. It's organic. It's so good. And it was going into my hot matchas beautifully, stunningly. Okay, I would froth it up, warm it up a bit. It was wonderful. When I transitioned to iced matcha, it just was not mixing into my matchas as well as it was when it was hot. It was like clumping up, and I was turned off by this, obviously, because it just wasn't enjoyable. So I stopped drinking my iced matcha, which then kind of pushed me back into the world of coffee, which I'm not complaining about it. I'm obsessed with coffee. I love coffee, but I kind of fallen off my matcha train, and I love incorporating matcha, less maybe for the caffeine factor, but more because I know how good it is for me and my skin reflects it. And it's just such a powerhouse of nutrients that I just love adding it in regularly. And I was taking my collagen with it and so forth. So I'll get back to it. But for now, what I'm doing is I'm having iced coffee. I've either been buying cold brew or I do hot coffee, which I turn to ice. And I've been frothing my magnesium L-threonate, which also comes in a liposomal form, into my coffee. And I saw someone do this maybe last year sometime, and I was like, what is that? Like, and she was an influencer, and she was mixing a lot of their supplements in to her coffee, and I hadn't ever thought of that before, and I was kind of weirded out by it. But then I tried it for myself, and I completely understood, and I completely got why she did that. So I blend it into my coffee, which I already do a little bit of organic whole milk and a little bit of organic heavy cream, and I blend in that magnesium L-threonate. And the L-threonate form is the form of magnesium that is most able to cross the blood-brain barrier, okay? So L-threonate is oftentimes recommended for people who experience anxiety and so forth. So I love this hack because, yes, I am someone who is more prone to anxiety. So I love being able to kind of optimize my morning by incorporating this supplement. The supplement itself, in terms of the flavor, is vanilla cream. So it blends very well into the coffee. And then what I just started doing, which I did share on my Instagram story, is they just released a nootropic creamer. And essentially this creamer is, coconut milk based, but it also contains ingredients like L-theanine and other brain health, cognition supporting, attention promoting ingredients to help really stimulate and support the brain. So I will say I'm not a huge fan of the flavor because it's heavy on the vanilla, and for whatever reason, like, I will have vanilla extract to the ends of the world and ends of the day, whatever the saying is. But the flavor of like vanilla in like a creamer, it's just not my thing. Like, I've never been a fan of like coffee creamers that are vanilla and whatever. But so I wanted to try this because it was cool that Symbiotica was releasing this product. So I'm certainly not going to waste it because that's wasteful. And, I want the benefits of the ingredients otherwise. But I've been adding some of that, even just like a half a scoop, to my coffee. So my coffee is like a coffee powerhouse because now it's got all of these brain boosting, mood supporting ingredients to it, and it's my favorite part of the day is my coffee or my matcha. So that's something else that I really love. On top of that, I did share this on my Instagram story, I've been adding a splash of heavy cream to my coffee. Oh my goodness, game changing. Now, as always, I always recommend organic grass-fed cream when and if possible. That is always going to be where I stand when it comes to dairy, choosing higher quality. But I'm telling you, game changer. I was using grass-fed half and half, which has been wonderful, and that's essentially the same thing as what I'm doing. But I've been heavier on my pour of heavy cream and lighter on my pour of milk, just to kind of throw that balance, that ratio off a little bit. So it's a little less half and half, more, milk and heavy cream, and it's so good. It's so good. Oh my goodness, I love my morning beverages. It's the best. So highly recommend up-leveling your morning coffee. And not only, in terms of supplements, like, you don't have to run out and buy all these supplements. I'm not the type of person that's going to say you need this, you need that, because you don't. You really don't. You can make the best choices for you and do what works for you. But just adding some things to your coffee, whether it's like a spoonful or not, I don't want to go as far as to say a spoonful, maybe like a teaspoon of coconut oil or a teaspoon of ghee or a scoop of collagen. Just these little additions can make a big difference, can help support the body's functioning. There's just a number of different adjustments that can be made, or, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Like embellishments, I guess we can call it that. That can be made to these things that we're already doing regularly to habit stack, number one, because I'll be honest, the magnesium L-threonate, the flavor alone was not something that I was really drawn to. Now, like I mentioned, the omega-3s, it's a very light lemon flavor. Very light, so it's very easy to take. The vanilla cream with the magnesium, it was a little bit too strong for me, so putting in the coffee has really helped. It kind of like balances out with the flavor of coffee. But you can get creative here and really kind of optimize your day, your nutrition, and so forth by adding in some fun things. And you could also just drink your coffee and you could call it a day. I mean, you could do that too, because that's cool too. And I support that. Ideally after food. I'll put that out there. Please have it after you have something to eat. That's something that I am continually struggling with. So I'm right there with you, but I know how important it is. So I try and make it a priority. Now, lastly, something that is so simple, but has changed the game for me. I'm telling you, just these past few weeks and months, is getting in an afternoon walk. And lately it's been without Lulu because it's so hot. I simply cannot bring her outside in this 95-degree weather. So I sneak out. I always, oh my God, I'm such a dog mom. I try to sneak out so she doesn't see that I'm leaving because I couldn't bear the thought of her thinking I'm going for a walk without her. She would be so sad. So I have to sneak out so she doesn't see me. So yesterday I went for 3 miles and it was so good. And I tend to get, I don't want to say maybe a little anxious or antsy around 1, 2 o'clock. Usually because I start my workday so early, as I'm moving throughout the day, I get to this window of time where I'm just kind of feeling off. I don't feel totally settled. I feel fragmented, kind of scatterbrained. So this has been so wonderful to break up my day. And it's interesting because it's usually between 1 and 3, 1 and 4 that I start to feel this way. But then, let me at my work and my laptop after 4 o'clock and I'm let me get work done. Let me start a new project. Let me do this. Let me do that. So I think I'm just learning kind of how my brain operates in that way. And so I do tend to, kind of have these afternoon moments where I'm I just need to disconnect. And so I've been doing that through walking or I'll clean or, but specifically what I'm trying to refer to here is the walks that I've been taking. And I'll listen to a podcast or, put something on and I'll just do a couple loops around my neighborhood. And it has just been so helpful for me and my focus and my brain to do that. And so making it a part of my daily routine is just something that I'm trying to integrate regularly. Right now I am I had a podcast recording this morning. Now I'm recording here and then I have an appointment in the afternoon and I have a phone call later. So after I'm done recording, I'm just going to go out and walk for 30 minutes. And I'm telling you, now I know that not everyone has the luxury of being able to do that in the middle of the day, but if you do and you can make it work or you could take a phone call while you're out, it has been so helpful. So helpful. And I used to, kind of dismiss walking, not because I didn't think it was effective, just because I would say, well, I'm already working out, so I don't need to go walk. And, obviously I had to take Lou out for walks because she needs to go to the bathroom and she's a dog, so I need to do that for her. So since living here, that's been obviously a big priority of mine and it's become a part of my routine, but taking solo walks, little awkward at first, I won't lie. I felt naked walking around without Lou, but I've adjusted and now it's a big part of my day. So 10 out of 10 recommend. So these are some of the things that I am just loving lately and I want to be sure that I share on them. The last thing that I've been doing, and I'll share with you because I did mention this earlier on and it's just coming to mind now, is I have hung my vision board in front of my Peloton. And that is because my frequency, we're getting a little bit into manifestation, my frequency, my energy, my mood, all of that is so heightened when I'm exercising, right? Because you're sweating, you're in a good mood, the music's playing, endorphins are pumping. So I really try to focus on my vision board when I'm exercising. And so for those of you who aren't familiar with manifestation and vision boards and so forth, this might sound a little out there for you. But when I'm in that heightened mood or that heightened state, I really want to focus on the goals that I have for myself, the things I want out of life. And so I've been looking at my vision board. It's taped in front of my Peloton while I'm exercising, and it's really allowed me to kind of recenter and refocus on my goals every single day when I'm exercising. And that's just been so much fun for me because I get excited when I think about the goals that I have for myself. Now, I will say some of the things on my vision board, which I may have mentioned before, are maybe 2-year goals, 5-year goals, but nonetheless valuable, important to me, and really areas that I want to push myself and I want to get to. So that's something else that I've been loving. I didn't plan to share this, but I thought I just looked up and I saw my vision board, so thought I would share. So these are some of the things that I love, and I love this, and I can't wait to continue to come up with more things to share with you, which I'm sure I could continue and talking more on this in this episode, but I'm going to let that one go, and we're going to move into talking about some Q&A. Okay, so I want to dive in now to the last portion of this episode, and this is a Q&A having to do with questions I've either been asked by clients, questions I've gotten via DM, and I think it's just a fun way to share information that's relevant to what you're curious about, but also, just random information that might be valuable to you, or maybe you've had this question before, and this is relevant to my story. It's relevant to, you know, any area of nutrition or wellness of any kind. And I think it'll just be a fun way to expand a little bit more on certain topics that you might, be personally navigating or you've thought about before in your own life, your own journey, and we'll just go month to month. So, with that said, any questions that you might have, I will put a box in the show notes so that you can ask them directly there, but you can also ask me via Instagram at any point in time. Please feel free to DM me, and then I will use those questions for the following month's Q&A. So I'm excited for this. I think it'll be a lot of fun, and hopefully it gives you answers to questions you may have previously been questioning, or it might be able to answer a question that you might have in the future. Whatever the case is, it's going to be across the board, having to do with any topic, all topics in wellness, and I'm really excited to get started. So the first question that I received was from a client of mine, and she said, and you'll know what I'm referring to on this when you follow along on Instagram. This is your reminder to go be sure to follow along on Instagram. Do I drink all the drinks? I am a big liquids person, not in the sense of as a replacement for a real meal, but in the sense of I like to have drinks with me. And, whether that's just water with lemon or an herbal tea. I love my electrolytes. I love my greens. I'm always drinking something. So do I drink all of my drinks? And the answer is yes, I do. I rarely don't finish something. If I'm going to share something, it's because I'm going to drink it because I'm going to be consuming it, because that's what I do on Instagram. But yeah, everything, that I have and I share, even things I don't share, I'm drinking, I'm eating, unless there's something wrong with it or I just don't finish it for whatever reason. But as far as drinks go, I think I have just really acclimated my body to a certain level of hydration where it's just used to this much liquid. It's used to getting hydrated as well as I personally think that I do. So it's almost expecting it. I share that with clients. When you only drink 10 ounces of water a day, that's kind of your baseline, right? That's what your body knows, and that's how your body is operating and what it's operating on. But then when you start to drink more water, while it might be a wonky process at first, eventually you're kind of sharpening your level of thirst so that you won't be able to go the full day with only drinking 10 ounces of water. Like, you'll notice that so much more. Your thirst will be so much more obvious. I think dehydration is probably one of the biggest issues that a lot of us face, and we don't even realize it. I think there's also a lot of, talk around, okay, is drinking plain water okay? Are you actually just flushing your system of minerals and so forth? And I don't want to get too much into that, but I think that's something to consider is, being sure that you're drinking enough, diversifying. I love getting creative with what I'm drinking, kind of up leveling my drinking or my hydration a little bit more. That's super fun. But yeah, to answer that question simply, yes, I do drink all of my drinks. And it's really not as much as maybe, I don't know, it might seem like a lot, but I really don't think it's a lot. Or maybe, you're just not drinking enough. Could be. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, drink more water, be more intentional about your hydration, and make it fun. Make it fun. So I want to somebody had DM'd me and asked about anxiety and lifestyle and how to manage anxiety more effectively through lifestyle. And I think there's probably a lot of anxiety tips and coping mechanisms that I could share, but I also want to share some reasons why anxiety might be present for you. Now, these are just going to be rapid fire off the top of my head. I do have a full episode on the 9 underlying causes of anxiety, and so please feel free to reference that. I will link that in the show notes. But I think just in general, recognizing the impact that lifestyle can have on anxiety is so incredibly important because it gives you more of a control piece to the fact that our mental health is so influenced by the things that we're doing from day to day. And I just don't think we're talking enough about that. Now, I also don't want to discredit or diminish how hard it can be for someone who does navigate clinical anxiety or clinical depression. And, I encourage anyone to really seek out support for that if it is relevant or necessary. But when it comes to coping skills and ways to prevent anxiety, I think, looking at those basic foundational tools like what are you eating? What are you drinking? Are you moving your body? Are you sleeping enough? Because all of these factors play a role in inhibiting or supporting anxiety, right? Like exercise. That is such a powerful way to relinquish excess stress hormones. And so I would argue that is something to reduce anxiety. But starting your breakfast or starting your day with an extra large frappuccino, which I know which is not politically correct because extra large doesn't exist at Starbucks, but you get the point. Starting with a frappuccino and a donut, that's going to throw your blood sugar into the tailspin of a full day of just ups and downs and mood issues and energy slumps and all that. So just considering the factors that can play a role. So rapid fire, move your body consistently. I'm telling you, find movement that works for you. Find movement that feels good, that is decompressing for you. Be sure you're getting enough sleep. I mean, nothing more, influential on our emotional vulnerability than the sleep deprivation. Focus on protein. Our body needs protein for essential amino acids, and amino acids are the building blocks of neurotransmitters, and we need that for balanced mood, for stabilized mood. And that brings me to the next kind of obvious step is to avoid refined sugar, refined carbohydrates as best as possible. Prioritize fiber. Fiber in your gut health is so incredibly important to support and cultivate a healthy microbiome. Choose probiotic foods if possible. Avoid alcohol. Avoid caffeine if you're sensitive to it. Manage your relationship with technology and blue light. I mean, the list goes on. There's so many factors that influence anxiety. So just being conscientious about this process and understanding how your daily habits influence your health and how you feel in an emotional way as it relates to anxiety, really, really important. I actually am starting this summer morning series where I'm calling it my 4x10 morning routine. And it's 10 minutes of journaling, which includes my gratitude, 10 minutes of meditation, 10 minutes of walking, and 10 minutes of reading. And I'm really going to do my best to consistently integrate this practice, and I encourage you to join me if you're interested. But this, I think, is going to really help me center myself for the day. I myself am someone who definitely struggles with anxiety, and so I'm trying to start being more intentional about pinpointing the practices that help or don't help the situation. Now, I already have a number of ones that I know are influential, right? If I don't sleep right, if I have caffeine before a meal, things of that nature that I know impact me. But now I'm trying to really hone in on, okay, what are the practices that are going to help me feel really good? And what are the practices that maybe keep me from feeling stabilized, from feeling level, from feeling even throughout the day? So I'm trying to keep all of that in mind. So please feel free to join me along on that. I'd love for you to join me. I think it's a great way to start the day. If you can afford that amount of time, if not, if you need to cut it in half and just do 4x5, by all means, please do. I probably will find myself doing that at some point just so that I can, expedite the process. But even if you can only do 5 minutes, it's still worth your while. The last question that I want to touch on was a conversation I had with a client a couple weeks ago that I think is really important. She was getting really caught up in the fact that this local farm that is local both to me and her, and they actually attend the farmers market that I go to every week, they are not organic. And she had been going to this spot to buy her produce, which I love. I think buying locally, seasonally is so great, so important, and shopping local and supporting local farmers and so forth, all that is so important. And we had this discussion around what is better, right? This produce that's not organic, but it's local. It's from a farm down the street. It's probably harvested, within a matter of a day or two and then sold to consumers the next day, the day thereafter. What is superior in comparison to, buying my organic produce from ShopRite or from my local grocer? And I want to use this example because I think it helps to really exemplify kind of the dilemma that a lot of people get caught up in. And that is, oh my God, do I have to buy all organic? Or, is this better than that? Or, well, it says it's grass fed, but it doesn't say grass finished. So is that still good, quote unquote? Like all of these kind of questions that come up with respect to doing the best and wanting to do the very best. And through this conversation with this client, I was very articulate to be sure she knew that at the end of the day, number one, the stress of whether or not this produce is organic or not and being worried about that is going to cause more harm to you and is going to impact your body's ability to use that nutrition and is going to impact you more than just eating the food itself. Now, I'm not trying to condone consumption of foods that are maybe treated with pesticides or, are raised in a certain way, not by any means, right? But at the end of the day, if that is what you have access to, that is better than choosing something that is processed, that's better than choosing something that is loaded with sugar. And I feel that, choosing local because of the benefits that I listed prior, that has tremendous benefit, right, to our health. When we shop local, we shop seasonal. And we forget that, right? And we get so caught up in, well, it's not organic, so I shouldn't eat it. That's not to say I'm not going to still choose organic foods. Wonderful if you can find organic, local, seasonal produce, right? That's wonderful. But for us to get so caught up in these logistics when we're either getting started on a health journey or we're in the midst of the health journey, we could lose our minds trying to pinpoint, well, what is superior? What's better? What should I be choosing? Should I stay away? And I would never ever tell someone, yes, stay away from your local seasonal produce, which is, wildly convenient to you in terms of access. It's from a local farmer, which is, like I said before, really great to support these local farmers and local farms, versus no, you have to make the special trip to Whole Foods where their organic section is so much more abundant and you have to buy all organic. I just don't ever want to suggest this rigidity. Now, I think at some point or time everyone can kind of graduate if they're like, yeah, like I'd really like to focus more on eating, more organic options, whatever the case is. That's great. That's wonderful. And I support you in doing so. But I think the problem is we get so caught up in the process of it that we forget that what we're doing by shopping local, shopping seasonal, and so forth is so much better than what we could be choosing, right? And there's so much value to it. So I think, what I want you to take away here is obviously prioritize quality where possible. Do your research, stay informed about what is better and what you could be choosing from a health perspective that is more supportive of maybe the health goals that you have, but don't allow it to consume you. Don't allow it to become something where you become overwhelmed by, well, what about this and what about that, or making all these trips around the world to prioritize the higher quality ones or whatever the case is. And that's causing you more stress and causing potentially resent toward the process itself. And that's not good either. Okay. So these are my suggestions for you to be sure that you're conscientious of the impact of that. Now, obviously, there's certain areas that I try to support clients in saying, like, listen, I would much rather see you choose X kind of meat versus Y kind of meat. Whatever is accessible to you is great, but if I can make any kind of suggestions from a health perspective on which is better for the body, I'm certainly going to do that. But I also like to walk them through the process of, getting caught up or becoming too consumed by finding the very best and the stress that comes along with that. That's not something I'm ever going to, suggest, anyone fall victim to, because it's just not worth it, right? It's just not worth it. So I hope that I'm getting my message across. I think giving that example is the best way for me to articulate the kind of general theme that I'm putting there across there. And I really want to be sure that message is sent so that, there isn't this level of, rigidity that we are expecting from ourselves to manage in the midst of trying to become healthier, quote unquote. And then that as a result causes us stress and anxiety and worry and, almost obsession to some extent. And I don't think that is healthy in any capacity by any means. And I encourage you to keep that in mind and really keep an eye on yourself in that process. So this concludes today's Let's Eat family dinner episode. It's the first official one, and I'm looking forward to ones to come. It really gives me an opportunity to kind of give the gist on what's going on, what I'm loving, what's happening with me, and then a few cute questions that have been coming up or that I felt would be powerful for me to share for others. And I hope that it was an episode that you enjoyed and that you'll tune into next episode. That is our family dinner get together or gatherings. And, I get to welcome you to the table once again. So thank you so much for being here. I hope that in the meantime, you do something good for your mind and body. And in the interim, be well.